Hey there, welcome back to another review, this time of the 2015 horror film slash kind of found footage, but not really, Nightlight. 5 friends, 1 game, 0 chance of survival, and 0 chance of an entertaining, let alone good, memorable horror film. Because this is not really... I don't know if 0 chance is probably... I don't know if that's the right percentage. Maybe that's a bit too low because there were some things about this movie that I did like. But for a movie that's around 84 minutes, it feels like it's 2 hours and 84 minutes. It doesn't have very many characters that are worth a shit, except for maybe the lead girl, and the rest of them are cliches and just annoying characters who are just waiting to die. Um, a kind of an interesting concept, but it isn't executed as well as it could be because it runs out of steam. And it's really an idea that is only, there's only enough there, there's only enough substance to last maybe 30 minutes, if even, or if less than that. There's not enough here for a movie that's feature length, and it shows. And you're probably wondering, why did I even get this? Why do we even have this movie? Well, it was cheap. I think I got it for free. It was one of those, like, buy a certain amount of DVDs and you get, like, a certain title free. So I was like, okay. And it was, I didn't really see anything else. And I thought, and I kind of like the idea of it, about this game of flashlight games. So this group of teenagers, they go into the woods and they're going to play these flashlight games and things go wrong. And I thought, okay, that has potential. And it does, but it just doesn't live up to it. I'm not alone on this either, because this film gets it gets the same sort of review that I'm kind of giving the movie, that I'm going to give the film. RogerEbert.com, the reviewer that's on there, I think they said that it was your typical, just not very good, forgettable movie that has some decent things in it, but overall there's not enough there. There's not enough good in the film, and the negatives far outweigh the positives. But anyway, Nightlight is a 2015 film. It's directed by Scott Beck and Bryan Woods. And I'm going to say this. I think Scott Beck and Bryan Woods, I personally do feel they did a good job directing the film. This is a film that's made for a very low budget. And it does seem to me that these directors do know what they're doing. They know how to set up the shots. They really know how to be kind of ingenious, because a lot of the film, it takes place in the point of view of a flashlight, which is actually a pretty interesting concept. It's an interesting idea, and it's not something that's really that easy to pull off. And I personally thought they pulled it off really well with a very low budget, so I got to give them props for that. On the other hand, I'm not going to give them props for their writing. And they also wrote this film. This film was kind of a muddled mess. There's motivations for characters that kind of don't really mesh. There's stuff, there's plot points that are kind of confusing and you don't really know for sure what's going on. And then, of course, you have the typical ending that every film like this has, which is just becoming a really annoying cliche at this point. So, I think this film would have benefited from different writers than Scott Beck and Bryan Woods. They said they have a groundbreaking story device that has the heightening suspense while turning the found footage genre on its head. I don't really see how this is even a found footage film, unless these flashlights inexplicably all have cameras inside of them. So I wouldn't even call this a found footage film, because nobody really finds any footage to begin with. The closest you get to found footage in this film is some shots of some vlog from this character who opens up the film and ends the film, named Ethan, played by Kyle Fain. Other than that, the rest of it is POV, not found footage. Anyway, it's a film that stars Shelby Young as Robin. I liked her. She was the shining light in this film. I thought she was likable. I thought she wasn't perfect, and I did like that about her. And I liked her performance. I thought she did a good job. I thought she was a good actress. She was nice to look at, and I thought her acting was far and away better than anyone else in the entire movie. Uh, I'm actually curious to see what other films she's got, down the pike, other films that she's going to do, because I actually thought she was really good for the most part, and she did a great job of what she had to work with, which wasn't much. Chloe Bridges, on the other hand, as Nia was playing, she was supposed to play this stuck-up, prissy bitch, and she was unlikable, but it didn't really seem like she had any acting talent. So she was unlikable, and she was a bad actress. Carter Jenkins as Chris was just this typical, just annoying fucking. I think it's the Chris. I think it's the same. Yeah, he was the fucking comic relief, and he was annoying as hell. I kept waiting for him to die, and he didn't, and it was just it's all kinds of frustrating for me because he's the type of guy who thinks he's so funny, like he thinks he's the most hilarious guy ever, and he just is not funny in the slightest. He's making all these bad jokes. He's just trying too hard, and he's just trying to get people to laugh, and eh, I ain't having it. I'm having none of it. Yeah, Mitch Hewer plays Ben, who is essentially the lead girl's crush. She went into these woods to play these flashlight games because she has a crush on this character. The guy's not much of an actor. He was only casted for his looks. Taylor Murphy plays Amelia, who's another actress who I could say maybe she's more tolerable than Chloe Bridges, but that's not saying much. She just doesn't really have much of a personality, and she's just eye candy. And then you have Kyle Fain, who plays Ethan, who's this young kid who opens at the beginning of the film, and he's suicidal. And then, of course, you find out later that, oh, he has killed himself, but you don't find that out until, like, halfway into the movie, or more than halfway into the film. Like, they try to, like, make that some kind of big surprise or something. And I was just like, why would you even have this video where he's saying, yeah, I tried to kill myself if this kid wasn't suicidal? I was not shocked at all when I found out that Ethan had killed himself, but I was confused though when the film tried to make it look like Ethan is trying to help the girl that he loved from beyond the grave, but not really. It was just that there's a lot of things about this movie that are just really they're just disjointed. It's there's multiple scenes in this film where a flashlight starts to run out of light, or the battery dies, or something happens, and that it sums up the film. And there'll be moments when it'll be bright, and then the lights will go out, and it's just not consistent. So it'll be bright, it'll illuminate the night, it'll be illuminating in some way or some fashion, and then the lights will go out, and then it'll just be bland and boring and bleak, and you might as well just be looking at a blank screen. So yeah, I mean, there's really not much to say. This might be a pretty short review because it's not really a rant because it's not so bad that it pissed me off because didn't really see, I wasn't expecting this to be good because the trailer really didn't look that great. And I was only interested in it because I did like the idea of the flashlight games, and I read the back of it, and that kind of got me interested. And this is a short synopsis of the film. For years, the Covington Forest has been shrouded in mystery, with a dark past as a final destination for troubled youths. Undeterred by the news of a classmate who recently took his life in these woods, they even gave that away on the back of the DVD. Five teenagers journey into the forest for an evening of flashlight games and ghost stories. They didn't really tell any ghost. I don't remember them telling any ghost stories. They play Greek Statue, where you get to see some girls with their tops off. Well, they still have bras on and panties, so they're not naked or anything. But you still get to see a little skin. But their plans go awry when the teens awaken a demonic presence, an unseen evil that will seize upon their deepest fears and plunge them into a nightmare of absolute terror. It doesn't seize upon their fears. It doesn't feed on their fears. It's just random. It's randomly you might see some wolves or something, or then you'll see what looks like a tree demon or something in a quick cut, and then you'll just see people get tired and then fall asleep, and then other characters like Nia will get possessed, and then they'll go around and they might kill somebody like an hour after the movie, like an hour into the movie. It's just dicking around for so long. It starts out with these teenagers where there's only one of them that you give a shit about, that you actually want to see what happens to. You want to see her make it out alive. These other ones, you just want them to die right away, and that's not a good thing. That does not help build suspense. And so, and then they're just dicking around in the woods playing these flashlight games, and then there's this confusing story where some demon is going around possessing people, and the first one it kills. I have to admit, I didn't see this coming. The first one it kills is the lead Robin's crush. Ben, he's the first one to die, Ben, which I thought was pretty surprising. And then, of course, you find out later in the script, in the film, that, oh, well, they were planning on tricking the girl, but then things went wrong, and they were trying to trick her because of this legend that surrounds this woods, that people who go into the woods here, they never come back. And, of course, then they found out that, oh, the Ethan killed himself here. So then the film kind of tries to make it look like maybe Ethan's trying to get revenge because because Robin dumped him pretty much. She was the only thing in his life. They were best friends, and she dumped him because she wanted to be with a popular guy. She wanted to be popular, and so Ethan couldn't take that, and so he went to the woods and he jumped off the cliff and killed himself. And then there's like some satanic church somewhere in the woods there's not much of an explanation for it. It's just there. There's some satanic church there. Some weird shit went on there. I guess the film is assuming that's where the demons come from. And then people who get possessed by this spirit or whatever, they get tired, they fall asleep, and they ultimately kill themselves and kill the people around them. And they also write their name on the wood in the church, or they write it on a tree somewhere. So, okay, all right. So, for example, Ethan was here. And then it kind of like, and then it's kind of insinuated that Ethan possesses Robin and writes Ethan was here, and then he makes her kill herself. And then like these other friends, all the other friends at the end, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, is this a revenge film, or is this just some random demon that's in the woods? Is this Ethan's spirit that's doing all this stuff that possessed Nia and Robin and just killing these people or whatever, and making tree branches fall and doing all this? I don't know. I have no idea. The film just doesn't really explain it. There's deleted scenes here as well that I guess there's like one little like flashback that looks like old-timey footage from like the 30s or something, but it doesn't really explain anything. It's just, oh, some weird shit went on. There's some occult rituals that went on in this woods back in the day, but no explanation for what it is, who was doing it, and why. See, there's mystery, there's keeping things mysterious, and then there's just being vague. And this is just vague, frustratingly vague, and lazy, completely lazy storytelling. Because they just give you a hint of something, but they never really explain it. So you're just left with questions after the movie is over. I gotta say this, the editing is also a really difficult thing to watch in this film. The editing in this movie is shit. It is some really awful editing, egregious editing by Russell Andrew. Because most of the time, this film takes a page from a lot of popular YouTube videos where you're going to have a quick cut here, a quick cut there, and there's a bunch of quick cuts for no reason. I guess to keep the attention of the people in the audience who have ADD. But it doesn't add anything. It's distracting. It's fucking distracting in this movie. It doesn't add any mood or atmosphere to the film. It's just a distraction. It's the equivalent of shaking shiny keys around in front of the camera. It just is completely pointless. Um, I will say this, like I said, the direction I thought was pretty good. I mean, they set up their shots well. They used their locations fairly well. It was a creepy sort of locale. I mean, in the woods at night. The only thing that is there to light your way is a flashlight. The POV shots from the point of view of the flashlight were actually well shot. And there's one particular shot at the end that I thought was really impressive, which is a POV of Robin when she falls to her death off the cliff. That falls to her death off the cliff. I mumbled my words there. Sorry. And it's from the point of view, her point of view, or the flashlight, and she falls, and it's I think it's CGI, but it's actually pretty good computer generated effects for a low budget. And then when she hits the ground, the camera then takes the point of view of the flashlight, and the glass breaks, cracks a little bit, and then it zooms in, and then it zooms out of the flashlight into a shot of the night sky and the setting, and I thought that was a really gorgeous shot. So there's some nice visuals here. So there's some potential here, and that's what's frustrating about the film. It's not really a rant because it's not like, oh man, it's like so bad that it pissed me off or whatever. It's just it's a frustrating film to watch because there's potential here, but there just isn't a good enough screenplay. So it would have to have a complete different direction to take it in, and not and a completely different screenplay in order to really salvage the film. Because the screenplay that's right here, that's here, there's not enough there to really salvage. So there isn't enough there to begin with. So yeah, I definitely would not recommend this film. I wouldn't. I wouldn't even really recommend renting it or watching it on Netflix or Amazon Prime or streaming it, unless it's something you find curious, unless it's something that you think would be an interesting watch, the idea interests you, or you're a fan of some of the people in the cast. All right, but other than that, I mean, there's not much to say about this film. The direction I didn't mind. I liked the actress Shelby Young, but the rest of the production was just, it was definitely cheap, low budget. Wasn't very cinematic. It tried to be found footage, but it really wasn't. It was more of a point of view film. It was more of a POV horror movie. It doesn't add anything new to the horror genre. It's pretty generic and forgettable in that regard. It's not very gory. I don't even know why it's rated R. I guess there's some bad language, and there's some really bad jokes dealing with the bad language. There's like a line of dialogue where Nia's talking about fingering herself to the Grinch Who Stole Christmas. There's our resident funny man Chris who's talking about, I think he was talking about masturbation or some shit. I forgot the line because it like I said, there's really isn't any really memorable lines of dialogue in this film either. And the script eventually gets pretty predictable. They start going around in circles, which is something straight out of the Blair Witch Project. And I'm not really the biggest fan of that movie, but to be honest, I would rather watch that than this. I would absolutely rather watch Blair Witch Project again. And I am actually interested in watching that again and giving that another chance because I haven't seen it in years. And I'd absolutely rather watch that than this. Because there's a lot of generic stuff. But there's, a generic story, generic characters, generic scares, bland, boring, forgettable. That's the three, the bland, boring, and bad. The three B's. The three B's you definitely do not want to get when it comes to a horror film. But like I said, there are some good notes to it. It's just there aren't enough of them. But yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, I mean, going back to some of the good notes, I mean, there's a nice little sequence when they're in the woods and the lights. These are like they're almost like street lights, and they go on and off and on and off, build some tension, and then one starts going on, and then another one starts going on, and then another one, and they start going on in succession as if something is coming. And there's some moments like that in the film that actually do build suspense and are tense and are well executed. They're just few and far between. So, like I said, yeah, it's short circuits. There just isn't enough there. There's not enough wiring to enable the film to remain bright for its entire running time. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say about the film, except if it's a rating out of 5 stars, I would give it 2 out of 5 stars. This is a film, this film was held back from release for about 2 years. It was made and finished in 2013 and wasn't released until 2015 by Lionsgate, and I can see why. I mean, there are some good things about it, but for the most part, there's really not much to this film. It's not a great movie. It's not really even a good movie. It's just a movie that's there. It's got its good points, but it's got far more bad points than it does have any good points. Um, but that's just my personal opinion. Although the director does do a good job using his setting, and there's some tense, suspenseful moments here and there, but overall, there's just the characters other than the lead suck. The pacing is really affected heavily because of that, because of the lack of more than one likable character, and the lack of an intriguing and genuinely interesting storyline, and the lack of a real threat, because you don't even know what the threat is. It's not even explained what the threat is. They don't even bother to do it. And even if they didn't, the threat itself is not very imposing or original or interesting or at all engaging to begin with. So all you have is a kind of an interesting idea of the point of view of a flashlight and some good direction and a good performance by the lead actress, and that's really about it. So, yeah. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Nightlight. Anyway, as always, I will see you guys later. See ya.